Now that we've created that very first design request, what we're going to do is go look at ClickUp and follow that request down the project timeline. Let's take a look right now. When you're in ClickUp, there are a couple different columns in different colors. These columns all relate to exactly where your project is in the design timeline. Let's take a look at each and what you should do in each column. Our new design request has been moved into more info needed. That means our project manager or designer saw that we needed some more information before we could get started on the design phase. In order to do that, you can click on the design task and it will open up the full design window. You can read the question from the designer. In this case, I'm asking for more information about the sermon series message before I get started. You can add that information here in the request description, or you can add it as a comment over here on the right. Once you provide it more information, you don't need to move it. You can just close that out and the designer will come back and review that information for you. Once they have decided that you've provided enough information, they'll move it over here into the design received column, and you'll be able to see that the graphic is ready to go into the queue. When something is in received, that means that a task has been assigned to a designer, that they will get started very soon on the task, and you should be able to receive that first concept design by the end of the due date selected. Now that it's in received, you don't have to worry about it. You can walk away, come back by the end of that due date or the morning after, and what you should see is the design is sitting in the waiting feedback column. In this column, that means that your design is ready for review and your designer is waiting for you to provide some feedback. We can click that task again and open it up, and we can see here that the designer has submitted a design example for you to choose from. You may love this first concept or you may totally hate it. That's okay. Either way, we want you to provide feedback here of either love it, or can we try a different example? If you select love it as we're ready to go to the final files, what you'll do up here in this colored block is click there and go to deliverables needed. And we'll cover what that means in a minute. If you want concepts to happen, new concepts to happen, or you really love this graphic but you don't like the pink and you want it to be orange, you would provide that as a comment feedback and move it into needs an update. Either way, moving the task out of the waiting feedback column means that it's now in the designer's plate. If a task is still sitting in waiting feedback, your designer will not see your comments. So it's very important to move that task out of waiting feedback whenever you provide it feedback. When a task is in needs an update, the designer knows that you provided some context or information or ideas for additional drafts or changes to the draft that they submitted. They will work within the next business day to get you those revisions, and sometimes faster than that. When they provided those revisions, they're going to move it back into waiting feedback, which means it's back in your ball court, and then you need to provide more feedback and move it into either needs an update, or in this case, we're going to pretend that this task is ready to go to deliverables. We're going to put that here and say love it, and tell the designer that we love it. And the designer now knows that they can get started on these final file sizes that you're going to need to promote this sermon series. If you need any additional graphics, this is the best time to put that in there. You can add in, for instance, an 851 by 315 graphic, which is a Facebook banner image. Now that the designer is ready to go and going to be working on those design graphics for you. Once they've put those graphics together, they're going to move it over into the final files delivered. What this means is that the designer has provided everything that you're going to need and have requested for this design. Now that they've submitted that, you can check that out by opening up the task. Usually there's more text here, but they'll at least give you a Dropbox link to go review that text or that design information. You'll be able to see all the different concepts to make sure you got what you needed for the graphic. If everything looks good, you can tell the designer thanks, give them a high five, whatever you want to do to celebrate, and then hit this check mark box for close. Once it's in that close column, that means it's out of view for everybody. Nobody's looking at it. We're all throwing thumbs up. We're all partying, and you are ready to promote that sermon series in your church and community. If you have to change anything in a closed task, it is very important that when you provide feedback, again, to move it out and into either needs an update or deliverables needed. Any task that's sitting in close or waiting feedback is not viewable to the designer. You need to move it out of those columns if you provide feedback into either needs an update or deliverables needed, or the designer will not see it. All right, those are the columns. Again, a quick review. Open means that the design has been submitted to our project manager, but it has not been assigned to a designer. If it's in more info needed, that means we're waiting on something from you in order to get started. Provide that feedback, but leave it in more info needed. Received means that the design request is now in the design queue. Your designer will get started on it and will get you that first draft by the end of the day that you select for the draft due date. Once they provided that draft, they're going to move it into waiting feedback and wait for your comments. When you provided comments, you'll move it into either needs an update or deliverables needed. Needs an update means that you're not quite in love with the graphic yet and you need some quick changes. Deliverables needed means that you love the graphic and you're ready to get all of the design sizes that you need to promote that event or sermon. When the designers moved to the final files delivered, that means they created everything that you've requested. It's ready to download and ready for you to start sending out to your church and community. Once it's been moved to close, that means the project is done and we can all celebrate. Hope this was helpful information about ClickUp. If you have any questions about the design process or design request making, please reach out to us at info@churchmediasquad.com and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Again, welcome to Church Media Squad. We can't wait to get started.